Back at it again here on Philadelphia Eagles Now because the content and the coverage never stops. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, as always, thank you so much for being here, hanging out, and supporting the show. Coming up, how is this Eagles offense so bad? Why have they been such a difficult unit to watch this season with all of that talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball and all the investments that Howie Roseman has made into the offense? And what could the Eagles do to solve some of these issues? Because this defense is spectacular. It is Super Bowl caliber, but the offense could hold this team back if this continues. And you look at how the Eagles stack up on both sides of the pill here. And in the two games since the bye week, they scored 10 points on the road against Green Bay, only 16 points against Detroit. That is not a sustainable way to play football. They are 16th in points per game offensively at 23.4, 25th in yards per game among the 32 teams in the league at just north of 300, 24th in yards per play at 5.1, 29th on third downs. Their conversion rate, 33.8%. They still do have the number one red zone offense in the NFL with a red zone touchdown rate of 75%. On defense, Vic Fangio's team really starting to trend in the right direction as a unit. And over the last few weeks, especially the last two games since that Jalen Phillips trade, they are really trending upward. And these numbers have gotten better. 8th in points per game, 18th in yards per game, 13th in yards per play, 20th on third downs. And like the offense, good in the red zone, number 3 there. But going back to this Eagles offense, you think back to last season, right? They started the season slowly, but then they found their identity coming out of that week 5 bye week. And then they got rolling from there on out. Their identity, a rushing football team. And Saquon Barkley was incredible last year. Big play after big play, chunk run after chunk run. And the pass game worked off of that. And it was a better looking pass game than this year. And you take a gander at the Eagles' rushing numbers this season so far, far cry from what we saw a year ago. Yards per rush, 3.9 per carry as a team, 25th in the NFL. It's not for a lack of rushing attempts. The Eagles are running it 29 times per game. That's number 6 in the league. Their rushing yards per game, it's not awful. It should be better. It's mediocre. But these numbers have gotten better the last few weeks, which is why the Eagles are now at 115.2, 17th in the NFL. Last year, they were hovering between 1 and 2 all season long. The Eagles' passing attack, the pass play percentage, they're about 50-50 run-pass split. So they're 31st in pass play percentage at 50.2%. I don't hate the evenly distributed type of approach that the Eagles have, rushing it and throwing it. They also are a pretty conservative offense, but under Nick Sirianni, because they are conservative and they're safe, they are now 40-2 when they win the turnover battle. Completion rate, not bad, just under 67%. That's 13th in the NFL. Yards per pass, they're number 10 there at 7.4%. Passes per game, 26.9. That's number 31. Passing yards per game, 28th. And you wonder why A.J. Brown frustrated? Because the passing success, the passing efficiency, and the passing numbers haven't been there. The Eagles' offensive EPA rankings. These are expected points added for the analytical nerds out there. And I think analytics are good sometimes. You obviously want to take a look at them because anytime you can use numbers to improve, obviously that's valuable. But some baseball teams, some football teams go all in on analytics and they ignore what you feel in your gut. And I think there's a good balance between the two, right? So the Eagles' offensive EPA rankings, important to look at. 15th in overall offensive EPA, 12th in passing EPA, which kind of surprised me. 20th in rushing EPA. That doesn't surprise me because this run game just hasn't gotten going all season long, with the exception of that Giants game. But the Giants are the worst rushing defense in the National Football League. So with this much talent, offensive football shouldn't be this hard. With this much offensive talent, the Eagles' offense should not struggle so much. I mean, it has been a hard watch to watch them go up against Green Bay, go up against a team like Detroit earlier on in the year, go up against an upper echelon defense like the Denver Broncos. And with this much talent, this Eagles offense shouldn't be so gross to watch. Where last night, my hairs were going gray. I wanted to pull the hair out of my head. So what is the root cause, and why is this happening to Philadelphia here in 2025? What is behind why this Eagles offense is struggling so much? We can go in so many different areas, and I think this is a case where multiple things can be true at the same time. Nowadays, everybody wants to pinpoint one thing and one thing to blame, or one person to blame. In this case, a couple different avenues that we can go down here. Eagles offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, Nick Sirianni guy. Sirianni internally promoted him. He deserves some blame here. And you can tell that he is an inexperienced play caller. This has been an issue all season long. My main Patullo problems, he has a lack of play calling rhythm. There's no rhythm to the offense. There is a lack of play calling sequencing, stacking plays on top of each other from a play calling standpoint haven't made sense. And there is a lack of play calling feel. You think about how Vic Fangio calls the defense. It makes sense, right? When you're watching it. Oftentimes when you watch this Eagles offense, it doesn't make sense. It lacks consistency. It lacks rhythm. It lacks flow. And I would say that both Sirianni and Patullo are to blame for some of the things that have surfaced during the Sirianni era. There is a lack of creativity. There are bad route concepts. Before Kellen Moore came to Philly last year, the Eagles were among the lowest teams as far as pre-snap motion. In today's NFL, it doesn't make any sense. So there is a lack of creativity with all of these things on offense, and that can hurt the run game, that can hurt the pass game, that can impact your quarterback, and that can impact receiver production, right? I do think a portion of this problem is because Sirianni and Hurts would rather keep the ball out of harm's way because they saw what happened in 2023, and turning the ball over at an alarming rate was a big reason why they completely collapsed down the stretch. As for Jalen Hurts also deserves blame for some of these offensive struggles. He is not blameless. In the case of the game against the Detroit Lions, he did not play well. He missed a lot of throws. Against the New York Giants earlier in the year, I thought he played awful. He is really an up and down, hot and cold player where he can go on these stretches and he can have games where he wows you and looks like an MVP candidate. He can have other games where you're like, man, it's really difficult to go through the tape and sit through the 60-minute ball game. But as I always like to say, context is very important. And you think about Joe Montana throughout his entire Niners career, when he won all those Super Bowls, he always had Bill Walsh. You think about Patrick Mahomes' modern day, he's always had Andy Reid. Jalen Hurts, going all the way back to Alabama, has never had continuity or consistency at offensive coordinator. He's literally had a different play caller every single season since 2016. Lane Kiffin in 2016, Brian Daboll in 2017, Mike Locksley 2018, Lincoln Riley 2019, Doug Peterson 2020, Nick Sirianni 2021, Shane Steichen in 2021-2022, Brian Johnson 2023, Kellen Moore in 2024, Kevin Patullo in 2025. A lot of quarterbacks would not be able to deal with that and have success with that. And when trying to get to the root cause of the Eagles' offensive troubles, I just can't fully put all of the blame on Hurts because statistically, he's having a pretty good year. But because the play calling isn't great, because the scheme is vanilla, which in turn makes it predictable, it doesn't do your quarterback any favors. I think Hurts is a little bit to blame maybe for the play calling because he's probably said, I'd rather play safe and I don't want to run as much because I want to keep my body right. But you look at some of these numbers here. He is 11th in yards per attempt, 6th in air yards per attempt, 5th in true passer rating, 8th in QBR, 10th in true completion percentage. He is 5th in deep ball completion rate, 1st in pressured completion percentage, 4th in completion rate against man. He's gotten better against zone. His completion rate is 12th, up to 70.4%. His passer rating against man is number 3, and his passer rating against zone, number 12. Early in the year, this was a big problem. Credit to him, he's gotten better. I also think a problem with this offense, twofold. The lack of receiver separation. 1.91 yards. It's 25th in the league among all quarterbacks. So a lot of tight window, stressful throws for him. His yards after the catch per reception is 4.5 yards. That's 35th among qualifying quarterbacks. This is both a scheme issue, but also does it come down to the Eagles' receiving targets not getting open? Both can be true here. So what do you think is the biggest issue with this Eagles offense? I want you to chime in, show me that you know ball down in the comment section. I always want you to have a voice on this show. Let's get to our sponsor for today's Philadelphia Eagles now. Our friends at Tushy, the everyday luxury bidet. Check these products out for yourself at hellotushy.com/chat. Going to put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles now. And that tush-push penalty when the Lions were offsides and then Tyler Steen got called for the false start, I wanted to call that ref a skid mark. A-hole is only a naughty word if you wipe. What do you give a sports fan who has everything but a respectable defensive line? Well, a tushy bidet to soothe their stress hemorrhoids. Loser in our fantasy league here at Chat Sports, they got to put truck nuts on their car. Winner gets a tushy bidet, and it's a great prize. It's a daily luxury for Super Bowl movements and Super Bowl movements. Easy to use, impossible to go back. This tushy bidet has been a game changer. It instantly transforms your bathroom habits and bottom health for life. Whether you're shopping for a bro, CEO, daddy, activist, a content daddy like myself, or somebody who lights their farts on fire, it's the gift that refuses to pick a lane. Luxurious, practical, techie, and so easy to use. 99% of people who wash with Tushy Wave feel cleaner and fresher after going to the bathroom. Tushy Wave instantly modernizes your daily routine and bathroom with a super sleek seat plus 2 separate front and rear nozzles. It'll hit every direction for the most complete clean. This is daily decadence with practical benefits. Over half the people who wash with Tushy soothe their hemorrhoids. 9 out of 10 people reduce itching and discomfort. Instead of wiping endlessly with toilet paper, Tushy pristinely removes 99% of bacteria while protecting your natural skin barrier thanks to one natural ingredient. You know what that is? Fresh water. Remember, that ref last night, an a-hole. But a-hole, only a naughty word if you wipe. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use our code CHAT at hellotushy.com/chat. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com/chat. Promo code CHAT. Get it today. All right, more reasons why the Eagles offense is struggling. Trying to get to the root cause for what is happening here. The Eagles offensive line last year, such dogs up front. Lane Johnson, Mekhi Becton, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata. All of these players played at an elite level. This year, this Eagles offensive line has dealt with a lot of injuries. I think they're tired from last year's workload, leading the NFL in rushing, having a running back run for more than 2,000 yards, setting the single-season record, regular season, postseason, for rushing yards in a season. And this year, it also just comes down to this. They're not playing as well. And now Lane Johnson is going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Fred Johnson's going to be in there at right tackle. How does that impact this Eagles offense? Do these struggles continue because Lane Train is not there? Cam Jurgens also might miss some time. Came back on Sunday Night Football, had to leave again. If he's out once again, Brett Toth going to be in there at center. Tyler Steen's been a fine player, better pass protector than run blocker. I think the Eagles have missed Mekhi Becton as a mauler in the ground game at right guard. Landon Dickerson's been hurt, hasn't been the same guy. Jordan Mailata hasn't played to that elite level and standard that we hold him to. And I think the Eagles' offensive line struggling goes to show you why this run game hasn't been the same. And a stat that I think is very telling is yards before contact. Saquon Barkley's yards before contact in 2024 last year, 2.61. His yards before contact this season, 1.54. It is down more than a yard. What this shows you is a lack of blocking, a lack of hole creation, and these defensive lines, obviously the defenses are loading the box, but they're able to beat this Eagles offensive line. And how often has Saquon gotten a carry and he's had nowhere to go? I still think he looks fast. I still think he looks explosive. Obviously, he might be feeling the workload from last year, but he's still such a dynamic player who's made some special plays this year. The explosive plays haven't been there. The holes haven't been there. The blocking hasn't been there. And it's resulted in an Eagles ground game that has just been bad to mediocre all season. And you look at how Saquon's season this year compares to last year. Through 10 games a year ago, he had 22 more carries, 197 compared to 175. But he had nearly double the amount of rushing yards. 1,137 this point last year, 662 this year. 8 rushing touchdowns last year, 4 this year. And look at his yards per carry, down by 2 yards. So the yards before contact, down by more than a yard. The yards per carry, down by 2 yards, 577 to 3.78. A big reason why this is happening for Philadelphia. Is it also possible that A.J. Brown is struggling this season because he's not the same guy physically? He has said publicly toward the back half of last year, he was getting his knee drained quite often. Remember, prior to the year, during training camp, this season, he's dealt with a lot of hamstring problems. Last year, he missed time due to hamstring problems. A.J. Brown has always been a pretty fast wideout. He's also been a physically imposing player. And he's so strong, which has led to him being so explosive, being so dynamic, picking up yards after the catch, being able to win these 50-50 balls. If you lose a little bit of that athletic juice, it can lead to a decrease in production. And this season, I haven't seen A.J. Brown separate like he's separated in previous years. A couple years ago, if he's matched up one-on-one against Rock Ya-Sin, you would take him to win those matchups. On Sunday Night Football, he didn't do it. Now, I think the route concepts can be better. I think his route tree can be more diverse. But sometimes it comes down to special players winning. And this season, A.J. Brown hasn't won to the rate where he's won in prior years. I also think his effort at times has not been good. I thought on Sunday Night Football also, this Eagles offense was worse because they tried to force feed A.J. to appease him. And what happened in turn? Less targets for Devontae Smith. And Devontae Smith this year has been the better receiver than A.J. Brown. He's been more explosive than A.J. Brown. He's made more plays downfield than A.J. Brown. And he's had a better rapport with Jalen Hurts, which is why he's on pace for a career year. 49 catches, 67 targets, 665 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Stay with what is working is usually the motto, right? Well, the Eagles try to keep A.J. happy, and they went away from their most dynamic pass catcher in Devontae Smith. You also have to give credit where credit is due, right? This Eagles schedule, it's been hard. It's been a gauntlet. It is going to prepare the Eagles for the postseason, in my opinion. And on this schedule, Philadelphia's gone up against a lot of really good defenses. Hopefully this Eagles offense figures it out. Hopefully this show gives you great insight to how the Eagles can get it together and context for why they've been struggling. And I'd like to see this Eagles offense be more creative, less vanilla, less predictable. All right, don't forget to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. I'm giving you so much Eagles content here, additional Eagles coverage over there.